Today we're talking about build the movement, not just the podcast. We are going to have some reaction clips, podcast news, community spotlight, word of the day, a main teaching topic, a podcast tip, and a few participation prompts for those of you who stay and watch for the duration. You will be in for a treat. We have a lot to cover. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Shout out to you. This is Mic Check Monday, your weekly podcast briefing. Of course, I'm DaniMarie. Welcome. This is where we build authority, ownership, and income through our voice. And if you're here live, I want you to comment the word live. If you're watching the replay, I want you to comment the word replay. Today, we're talking about building the movement, not just the podcast, but not everybody is building something people want to come back to, okay? Not everybody is building community. Not everyone is building trust. Not everyone is building a brand people remember. So today, we're going to talk about how to do exactly that. We've got reaction clips, podcast news, community shoutouts, MVP. You heard it all at the very beginning. Let's get into the episode that I want to share. Actually, before I do, let me just say shout out to Kizzy because she is a friend of mine. She is a podcaster, and she just announced yesterday she got a special delivery. What's in my cup? The color is orange. To match the fly. But she just got a special delivery. Have you ever thought about turning your conversations into a deck of cards? So she has the podcast Parenting Unlocked, and she has tough conversations on her platform as well as with her young person, her young adult at this point. And now she's found a way to take all of that content, turn it into a deck of cards. So now you can have the challenging conversations with your young people. And it's a good family game night. It's a good time. It's a good way to learn. It's a good way to address the elephant in the room without making it awkward. So I recommend repurposing your content into conversation cards. And I recommend you go and support Kizzy. So she's on my feed on Facebook for more information and ways to connect with her. Shout out to her for seeing a vision and bringing that vision to life, and then now having something tangible in her hands that she can sell to other people. And this is how you create impact, because now those conversation cards can help families in many different ways. Also, special shout out to, and these are not my MVP or my shout outs that I wanted to do, but these are special shout outs because these are my people that I hold close and dear to my heart. So shout out to also Coach Memory. Coach Memory, she just finished season 1 of her podcast yesterday, and we helped her on her journey and made an announcement about that as well. But just to see how diligent she's been and how she kept the course and stayed the course, and she kept up. And she finally has finished her season 1 of her podcast, Elderhood. So shout out to both of them. A lot of people in my community are doing really cool things. And so I just want to say, for all my podcast peeps, you know who you are. You have a special place in my heart, and I wanted to give you a special shout out. It's cool when your fruit is bearing fruit, right? So people that are around you and connected to you and lean on you for your advice, now you can see how well they're evolving and prospering as a result of the seeds and the fruit that I bear. So it's supposed to be that way, and I'm just so grateful that they chose me. But let's talk about the clip. I watched a few different things this past week. I watched Ray talk about Joe Budden is probably one of the biggest pioneers in podcasting, but also that he's changing the music industry as well. And every music artist should aspire to be something like a Joe Budden or a podcaster. Like, podcasters are the it factor right now. They're the cool kids. the amount of impact and how they can go out and sell out in arenas, on a live stage, or how they can influence the culture. And Ray was saying this is basically what every other music artist is aspiring towards, but it's the podcasters that are leading the charge. So I watched that clip. I also watched and listened to Mama's Den. I was just listening to Mama's Den. So it's a group of mothers, obviously. They just had one of my favorites on the podcast. She's the co-host to Kev on Stage. And they were just basically talking about her style of parenting. She has 4 kids. How do you balance it all? Of course, that's one of the questions we often get asked, no matter who we are. How do you balance your personal and professional life? And so she talked about that. And I was trying to see if I have it up here, and I do. So it is the Mama's Den featuring Melanie, Fiona, Ashley, Che, Cody, Elaine. And then today they had, oh goodness. I don't know why her name is slipping me. But today on the Den, they had, I don't want to say Angel Reese. I know her name, and I'm mad because she hangs out with all of my favorite people. Tabitha Brown, Miss Kev on Stage, Melissa Fedricks. Goodness, I know who this is because I watch her and I follow her, but I'm drawing a blank on her name. She had the song, the Margarita song. And she's so funny. She's a comedian. She's a mom. She's a podcaster herself. And they don't put the name here, not that I can tell. Let me go to the Mama's Den on Instagram because I got to get her name. Is this going to cause an argument? Like, I know everything about her, but her name is slipping me right now. Mama's Den. Okay, so as I think about her name, let me move on because I'm wasting my time. Okay, here we go. That Chick Angel. Goodness gracious. That Chick Angel. I should have just did that. So I listened to that podcast. What I really loved about her is like how poised and positioned and confident she was in her parenting. Not that she's coddling her children, but she's teaching them to be great stewards over the things that they have and great brothers to each other. And sometimes that means it's not going to be that we coddle your feelings, but we enforce discipline. We set boundaries. And some people would say they have mom guilt around that, but that Chick Angel was like, I don't have mom guilt. I don't struggle with those things like other people do. And I like that she's just like so bold and could say that. Like, that's my stance. I don't look to other people for validation on a lot of topics or things. I do what I know is best for me. And I don't try to appease anyone in the process or try to think about outside opinions because I know that that's going to be a distraction. So going along with the theme of the conversation for today, build the movement, not just the podcast, just her standing in her complete authentic self is how you build a movement. People are like, yes, I can align with that, or no, I don't align with that. But that's how you build a movement when you show up and you are authentic. So shout out to her. And then there was another podcast episode I listened to. It was on Omar's platform. And he basically had a guest who was talking about how you turn your Zoom into a masterclass and you convert your Zoom listeners or participants or whoever's taking that webinar, you convert them into your high ticket paying clients. So he was talking about how you leverage Zoom and teach a good course or masterclass. But I want to go back to LaRussell and Kev on Stage. Not My Best Moment is the name of the podcast. Kev on Stage has a few podcasts, including one with That Chick Angel, by the way. So let's pull that up And then there's 3 clips from that episode that I want to highlight in the theme of build the movement, not just the podcast. So let's pull it up here. I'll share my screen in a moment. I love Kev on Stage. By the way, fun fact, Kev on Stage is, I mean, he claims it. I know he's from El Paso, Texas, but he eventually moved out here. And yeah, he was here for several years and made an impact here in Tacoma. So we claim Kev on Stage. All right, I'm going to share my screen. There were a few clips in this episode that I wanted to highlight. So the first one is between the 2:30 to 3-minute mark. All right, so
this way.
I'm not too cool to be successful.
Oh, say more.
And it's not just music for me. You know, like I had a moment where I was telling the homie Splash, I'm like, bro, we walk every day. We need to start filming them and just document, because we always drop gems to each other. And I'm like, man, we should just share those. Like, I want to get paid to be me. I don't want to get paid to just rap or just perform. I want to get paid to be me. I want people to see me and be like, oh, that's LaRussell.
Yeah.
You know, and it got to a point, you know, there was conversation of like, oh, well, you don't have a hit. You don't have this. And I've always been like, I'm the hit. Like I may not have a song, you know, but you know LaRussell.
Right.
You know LaRussell. Right. Some artists, you might know the song, but you don't know the artist.
Yeah.
You feel me? The one thing you know is who I am.
I love that perspective so much. Again, we're talking about building the movement, not just the podcast. So this is where a lot of people get stuck. They see like everyone else's blueprint and they feel like they need to follow that. But you have LaRussell, who is able to then stand out because everybody else is going left and LaRussell's going right. And he's like, no, I'm the hit. I'm the movement. I am the brand. And no one could put me in a box. And I think we should all think that way. He's not just a music artist, but he's a music artist. He's an actor. He puts on productions. He is a ton of different things. We're all multifaceted people, but we rarely lean into all of our dimensions. We're only operating in one dimension most of the time. But here you have someone like LaRussell who just shows up as his authentic self, and he makes that the brand. And therefore, when you're doing something that you love and you're passionate about and it pays you, that's just the icing on the cake. So can you do your podcast in such a way that you're doing it and it's authentic to you? You don't have to pretend. You don't have to try to show up as someone else. When you repurpose your content, when you do your behind the scenes stuff, it's just you with the camera that's propped up, capturing your life organically and not having to conform or acclimate to anyone else's way of doing things. So shout out to LaRussell. We're going to share another part in that episode. It is the 4 to 5 minute mark. What do you want people to remember about you? This is what I want you guys to think about. What do you want people to remember about you? We're going to move it to the 4 minute mark and let it go for about a minute. All right, let me share my screen. Again, this is LaRussell on Kev on Stage, not my best moment.
You appreciate that. Other artists would have taken that as a slight. How did you see that interaction? Because I don't think he was like going no beef. I don't know where the comment originated from, but you didn't take it there. You appreciated the compliment about the movement. To you, is a movement more important than the music?
Far more.
Okay.
Because you can always get to the music through the movement. you know. But you could be a fan of music and not invest in nothing else, you know. Like, I look at it as I'm a tree. Music is one branch on my
Yeah.
tree. The LaRussell tree is I write books, I make music, I write films, I'm funny, I sell gold card, I do dope show, I throw festivals, I book you might see an interview clip to where you love me, you know, or
Yeah.
you just like my ethics and what I'm about and what I built.
We're in a storytelling culture where you have to lead with the story. People are falling more in love with the person before the brand or the product. So I love that LaRussell says, I'm an author, I write the book, I do this, I do that, I do this. Or people could just rock with me because I'm an overall good person, a genuine hearted person. So you are the movement. What is the core of you? What is at the crux of what you do? And then again, you don't have to be placed in a box. You can do all of these things that you're passionate about, and you can include that into the brand. And so don't let people place you in a box. I know a lot of people had a lot of opinions about LaRussell when he finally went from an indie music artist to aligning himself with Rock Nation. He talked about that. He talked about the pushback that he received, but at the end of it, there should be no question because he's always showed up as an authentic person. You see him. You don't have to question his motives. You know he's authentic, and he's proven that in every facet. And so I just love that segment too. Like, hey, you don't have to second guess. I am who I say I am, but I'm also not limited to who you say I am. I'm all of those things. I'm a multifaceted being, and I operate in many capacities, and you have to respect that. If you don't, get out the way. Last one, again, in the same vein, we're talking about build the movement, not just the podcast. This clip is leaving empty. This is between the 11:30 and 12:30 minute segments on this episode. 11:30 to 12:30. Leaving empty. Giving your all to what you do and leaving empty. Because this is what you've been called to do.
Yeah.
Brother, what the hell?
Yeah.
40 projects.
Man.
What is the thought process behind that?
Leaving empty.
Oh my God.
Leaving empty. You know, I'm a big advocate on getting out all of my ideas and everything that I love and enjoy. Like, I don't want to hold it back. You know, if I make something I really like and I'm like, bro, I love this, like, I'm putting it to the world. I'm independent. I don't have no constraints on that. And I don't think you should. And that allowed me to hone my craft and my pen. Like, I learned how to write songs, better songs. I learned how to be a better rapper. I learned how to be a better speaker through doing it.
Man, that's so solid. When you give yourself to the art form or you give yourself to the passion, you are a vessel. But then how much evolving, pruning, dissecting, growing, just because you're giving yourself to the craft, how much more can you gain from it as well? So leaving empty. A lot of us do our podcasts. It's hailing or snowing really bad right now. But a lot of us do our podcast selfishly for ourselves. Are you also hoping that it impacts people and that you pour out your passion into the pen or onto the podcast for the sake of changing someone else's life? Is it that deep for you? LaRussell says his mindset is leaving empty. He wants to get all his ideas out instead of holding them back. That's a word for podcasters who keep waiting for the right setup, waiting for the right podcast title, waiting for the right season, waiting for the perfect intro. But your voice gets stronger when you use it. You don't become confident before you create. You become confident because you created enough times to trust yourself. So what have you been holding on to that you need to record and release when it comes to your episode. I'm going to drop the link in the chat so you all can find this podcast episode yourselves. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? This is not a live. This is pre-recorded because I have to do my podcast webinar in 15 minutes. So normally I would be live, but because I have to do my training at the same time I would normally be live, I can't share this link with you, but make sure you go find this episode, Not My Best Moment, with Kev on Stage featuring LaRussell. Yesterday was batch recording day, you guys. We had an amazing time between my co-host and I recording in the studio together. We were in great hands. Shout out to Carrie. I left some tips about batch recording on my feed. You guys should all check that out. But next, we want to get into some podcast news. All right. So this is important because you guys can't take the time that I do to go and research everything because you guys are working full time and you're doing everything that you need to do for the family after you get off work, and you're trying to take the extra time that you have left to pour into your podcast and building your platform. So while you can't do all of the research, I can, and I'm going to put you up on game. So first, let's get into it. Podcast news, iHeart Podcast Awards. The iHeart Podcast Awards are one of the clearest reminders that podcasting is not a side hobby industry anymore. It is mainstream media now. So why this matters is because podcasters need to stop shrinking what they're building. There is real recognition, real visibility, and real opportunity in this space. If major award shows are spotlighting podcasts this way, then your podcast deserves to be treated like a serious platform. So this is an older pick from last year, the iHeart Podcast Awards. However, they are doing the Podcast Awards this month. I'm curious if any of you guys plan on tuning in. I think if they show it live on TV, which I didn't check, but if they do have it premiering live, then I will probably do a live stream reaction video situation. So you guys can be on the lookout for that. But let me share my screen. And so we can look at the Podcast iHeart Awards together. So this is live at South by Southwest, the iHeart Podcast Awards for 2026. At the ACL Live at the Moody Theater in Austin, Texas this year. So here are some of the topics. Podcast of the Year. Of course, The Breakfast Club, Mel Robbins Podcast, Pablo, The Rest in History, This Past Weekend with Theo Vaughn, Call Her Daddy. These are the same people that are always nominated. The Icon Awards, Jay Shetty, Terry Gross. I can't even pronounce that last name, but I should know it. Here are some of the category nominees. I do love Earn Your Leisure. I love to see that. Look at the different caliber that makes it onto an iHeart Podcast Award. So you have Best Business and Finance Podcast, Best Comedy Podcast, Best Pop Culture Podcast. I don't know, Call Her Daddy is pop culture, but I just be hating on that white girl. But she gets the numbers. Crime Junkie for the Best True Crime, Rotten Mango, Anatomy of Murder, My Favorite Murder with Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hard Start, Wisecrack, Best Food Podcast, Best Wellness, Fitness, Best Kids and Family, Best History Podcast, Best Music Podcast, Best News Podcast, Best Sports Podcast, Best Fiction, Best Science, Best Technology, Best Ad Read, Best Overall Host. It's a lot. So this is going to be 7 days from today, March 16th. So if there's a way for me to cover that live, I definitely will. I mean, live from home, that is. I'm not going to be at South by Southwest. I'm not going to be in Texas. I am going to try to make my way down to the Black Effect Podcast Network happening in Atlanta this year. And you can find more information about that on our website. The website is plantopodcast.com. If you didn't know, now you know. If you wanted to go directly to the website about the activation, you can do plantopodcast.com/Atlanta. All right. Next, in the news circuit, we want to talk about Mr. Bill O'Reilly. Some of you guys know who this is. It's a familiar face or maybe a familiar name. But Bill O'Reilly is launching a new interview podcast called We'll Do It Live, with weekly interviews distributed across YouTube, major podcast platforms, and his website, BillO'Reilly.com, and the first TV, according to the article. So, this matters because even legacy media personalities are continuing to move into podcasting and digital first distribution. The mic is still one of the most powerful tools in media. So some of you guys may care for this gentleman or not, but the whole point of sharing is just that even traditional news, even big media personalities are moving into podcasting. So it's not just hip hop artists or influencers. Everybody is on the podcast wave. We are in a podcasting era. Podcasting is one way where you can make yourself visible, establish yourself as the expert, repurpose your content. And so this is a marketing machine. And there's also ways for you to monetize. So it just makes sense. It's a no-brainer. And why you see so many people jumping into podcasting. So it's not a question of, should I do it because everyone else is doing it? It's more so, I should definitely do it because this obviously is the right thing to do because everyone is moving into this industry. So more marketing dollars, or just a way for me to build my own community and my own ecosystem. All right. And then last but not least, the last news segment, Baha Mar launches resort podcast experience. So Baha Mar launched the studio at Bahar Mar and resort-based podcast studio and experience space that will host podcast talent, celebrity interviews, and live audience recordings, including work with iHeartMedia based on the article that I shared. So podcasting is no longer staying inside the app. It's becoming an experience, a travel activation, a live event format, a lifestyle brand extension that should open your mind to how big your podcast can become. All right, next, let's go into some community spotlights and MVP, most valuable podcaster. So normally we would share from the Plan to Podcast group all of our newest members and our moderators who have contributed to the group. If you're not following us, you can follow us again, plantopodcast.com. And if you don't know, that is plantopodcast.com. There's more information where we do our shout outs and we highlight all of our moderators of the group. But right now, I want to call out all of our newest members. So we have Muhammad, Racksbench, Studio, Sonia, Underestimated Voices, Darius, Marquise, Chris, Wedson, Ja Group, James, Zen, and Renetta. And I think before that, nope, that's our first and only new members as of, I think, last week, the 17th. Last week, the 24th, when we had to close down our other Facebook group. So those are the newest members who've joined us in our new group that we pivoted. So if you guys don't know, I shared a 4-part series on my YouTube channel, so you can go back and reference that. But there was a situation where we lost our old group, but we had a backup. And so we just moved everyone. So those people are slowly trickling into the new group, and we just shouted them out. And in terms of most valuable podcaster, I'm going to give a special shout out to, he's actually earned a few shout outs from me, Leonard. So Leonard is our newest moderator in our new group. And I love Leonard because he's so active. He's always asking, how can he help? How can he contribute? How can he be a part? And those are the type of key players you want to have on your team. And I'm just so excited for him and all of his success. So make sure you guys show him some love, follow him. He is our moderator of the group, and he's a big help. And like I said, he contributes a lot. So you can gain a lot from getting to know him. All right, next, word of the day. Word of the day is positioning. Positioning is how your podcast is understood in the mind of the listener. It answers the question like, what is this show really about? Who is it for? Why should I come back? And what makes this show different? You can have a good podcast and still struggle if your positioning is weak, because when people can't quickly understand your show, they don't know why they should stay connected. So today's word, again, is positioning for that reason. All right, let's get into the main topic. The main topic, build the movement, not just the podcast. A podcast by itself is just content. A movement is what happens when your content creates connection, consistency, and community. This is what makes the difference. A lot of people have a podcast, but not everyone has listeners that come back week after week. And not everyone has a message that people recognize and repeat. That is the work. 3 things that help you build the movement. Number 1, be clear about what you stand for. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. I know many of us have heard that adage before. Same thing when it comes to your podcast. Your audience should know what your show represents beyond the episode title. So, what do you help people do? What do you help people believe? Who and what do you help people become? 2, invite people into the experience, meaning ask questions, not just in the episode, but on your pages, in the group, under the episode, in the description. Excuse me. Let people comment and ask questions. So you need to read the listener comments. Share that as often as possible. So if you go to our website, plantopodcast.com, there's a way for people on the website to submit their questions to us. And let me try to do that now. But as I'm doing that, the value in that is just knowing that your customers feel heard and appreciated. That's enough for them to want to keep coming back and be a part of the community. When you make it so easy and conducive for them to engage with you, give their feedback, and be heard. You provide a platform where people feel emboldened and empowered. So you can go to our website and you can send in your questions. This is me, by the way. Marie, and this is Planta Podcast. Shout out to all my podcasters out there. I want to hear from you. Drop your questions and your comments in the audio box. So we use something called SpeakPipe, so they can leave their questions, and that's one way we involve listener feedback. And then let people contribute. And lastly, highlight your community. Movements grow through participation. Last thing, when it comes to things that help you build movement, stay visible and stay consistent. The more consistently you show up, the more trust you build, and trust is what turns a listener into a supporter. Your podcast should not feel like random uploads. It should feel like people are stepping into something with a mission. That is how you build authority. That is how you build ownership. And that is how you build income. So my podcast tip to you as we come to a close, You can use this and apply it and engage with us within the next 24 hours. I want you to record a short piece of content answering this question. What does my podcast stand for? Not what is it about? What does it stand for? Post that. I want to see a short audio clip, a reel, a quick live, a micro episode, something, okay? What is your podcast about? What does it stand for? And as we wrap, I want to leave you with this. Do not just build a podcast people can listen to. Build something people want to belong to. That is the difference. That is the shift. That is how you stop sounding just like another show and start becoming a voice people remember. If you got value from today's room, make sure to share it with another podcaster, download it, reply, hit the notification bell, subscribe wherever you're watching. Whatever you have to do, stay connected. If you're here live, thank you. And if you are watching the replay, shout out to you too. I'll see you next Monday for Mic Check Monday. If you want, I can send you any of the transcripts or any of the things that we talked about earlier today. Just let me know, or you can reference the important links in the description of this episode. I am your podcast bestie, DaniMarie, and I gotta go because I gotta train people in 1 minute. Bye.